No matter where or when, assassins are always a fascinating existence. They are cool and powerful. But even if one exists as the strongest, one will still have to leave this world. It's even more terrifying when people like that are allowed to log into a new server with all their old memories. Right on a cool, moonlit night in a large and luxurious villa, located right in the middle of the forest, a lady in a formal yet seductive outfit is being made up to enhance her beauty. But before I could touch her, she suddenly burst into tears. And why? Because she herself was an item in an auction. In front is the girl named number 6. The old perverts below started stroking their beards and sneering as soon as they saw it. Then the price increased from 4 million to 75 million. Also, in a high corner in a prime location in the building, a woman named Kida was constantly showing her displeasure because she felt that the people below were offering too low a price for such a super quality item. Back to the first girl who was sobbing and demanding to return to her family, number 7, suddenly spoke up for Vu to put on some makeup, because girls have to be pretty. As soon as he finished speaking, it was the little girl's turn to go on stage. Along with her golden hair and sky blue eyes, she also has fair skin and a perfect body, all combined to create a stunning beauty. That's why the old men kept offering prices from 10 million and up. Seeing that no one was a good person, she activated her metal crafting power. The moment her eyes lit up, she threw away the handcuffs and threw them straight up into the sky, then proceeded to make a small gun, finally just standing there and shooting. Inside, at this time, there was also a blonde girl in a maid's uniform, directly using a beer bottle to knock a soldier unconscious. Then she lifted her skirt to reveal everything that needed to be revealed. What I mean by this is that each piece of the spear is carried in a pouch right on the thigh. After flying up to avoid a knife stab from an uncle, he immediately poked and kicked to complete the combo. Then to the waist of one, and finally down to the chest of the other. He also conveniently grabbed the key he was holding and threw it to the girl standing there dumbfounded. Outside, the guards also began to appear to stop. The right Deer was easily knocked back when he tried to attack the marquee of the warehouse. Then he pulled out his pistol and fired a few shots to gain more space to coordinate with his teammates. After changing the magazine for the short-range weapon, Teicho quickly flew up to give each soldier a candy, reloaded the magazine very smoothly a second time, then sent the group of people approaching their superiors to their deaths, but the fun ends here, because the spell is over. With a concussive fire attack like this, the young men below wouldn't stand a chance. The other side Luger also received the signal. That means the Marquis Leda is really involved. Her modus operandi was quite simple. She sent people to pretend to be bandits, to attack villages, then kidnapped innocent girls and sold them for money. Of course, all organization and auction activities will be carried out in secret. As for herself, the Marquis thought that hiding in her private room would make her safe, but she couldn't handle it. Outside, there are 2 people watching every move. Back in time, this was Luger's previous life. At that time, he was still an assassin uncle holding the strongest skill set. His teammates only needed to determine the distance of the targets to be able to take them down one by one. Because he was holding a sniper rifle, each shot ended the movie immediately. Even if I hid behind the car and couldn't get a hold of him, he would still find me and shoot me down. After one shot, I would stand up and leave right away. Since the organization only listed that many people to be dealt with and still left a few big shots, it can be clearly seen that their purpose is to continue to keep their mafia gang but replace it with a new headquarters. So, no matter what his companions said, he was determined not to continue the massacre, but to pack up and go home to rest. However, before he could do anything, he discovered an object flying in the sky, so he quickly took the driver's seat. It was then revealed that the object he had just seen was known to be an unmanned reconnaissance aircraft, and then immediately run out of gas and run forward. But because of the ambush, the car quickly exploded into pieces. How can you defend against this kind of bullet rain? But Luger and his companions also successfully escaped long ago. The purpose of deliberately turning on the headlights to run is to attract the radar in the sky, then hang the gun and tie the rope to the trigger. So when the car is shaken, this gun will definitely go off. The incident tells us that they took advantage of the fierce fighting to sneak through 2 doors and narrowly escaped. After waiting for first aid for their teammates, the 2 immediately continued moving and quickly successfully left the border. Since the other device uses infrared to detect the difference in underground temperature, they will go to sleep now and move in when the ground temperature surpasses their bodies. At this moment, Luger reveals that he was born and raised in the organization. That's why it almost became the only way to survive. He was also very satisfied with everything, because this place was all to himself. As for human emotions, this has been absent from Luger for a long time now. But after the trip, he will probably retire and continue to work as a tutor to impart skills to the younger generation. At the same time, in the uncle's eyes, his current companion was no different from a newcomer. Seeing the other side criticize her for being incompetent, while she had learned a lot from the organization and was in the top ranks, the beautiful lady was quite angry, so she argued with all her might. But all doubts were extinguished when the gun was pointed at her head, and it was her own weapon too. Losing weapons to the enemy was partly due to being too trusting. Luger cocked the trigger and said he would kill her so as not to leave any trace of the crime, causing her to freeze as if turned to stone. This range must deflect the bullet and then knock down the opponent. But applying those tricks to monuments in the industry is no different from a farce. Having said that, he revealed his weakness of being too confident in his own strength and wary of his enemies. But let's return the gun and go to sleep to regain strength. Who would have thought that as soon as Luger lay down, she pointed it back to threaten him? If you are so kind, then let's do the last lesson of the day. The uncle quickly stood up, then loosened his right hand, causing a pile of boiled bullets to fall from the gun. Who would give a loaded gun to someone they just threatened? After reporting to the organization that the mission was completed, Hua promised to bring the girl next to him back safely. Both quickly received new passports and boarded a plane back to base. But before I could close my eyes for a second, the surroundings began to shake violently. Turning on the news, I saw the station continuously reporting on the disappearance of the plane, even bragging that it was attacked by a bomb. But Luger knew full well that it was the organization that had arranged the assassination of the soon-to-retiree. In addition, they are so meticulous and careful that they add an expired tool to get in the way. Who else but the companion from yesterday until now? Because it is a bit small, it can only be travelled by plane to return. The organisation thus had a 99% chance that Luger would board the flight. Calmly looking for the cockpit, but the smoke and dust everywhere, blood everywhere was enough to make one lose hope. And then there was the armed fighter plane. It only took one shot to successfully send Luger and everyone present to heaven. In the middle of the dreamy space where life and death intersect, men was suddenly called by a goddess. She agreed to allow him to live again with full memories. The place where M was reincarnated was a place where swords and magic were considered the most dangerous weapons. Of course, there would be a condition that Luger needed to fulfill a commission from the goddess, namely, assassinating the one worshipped as a warrior by all. After hearing the whole crazy story, who wouldn't find it hard to believe, even if an assassin is someone, the fact that they can interfere with life or death is really hard for people to accept. It is known that the goddess's job is to erase everything related to the soul of the dead, then recycle it all. Or, in other words, everything built up from the past until now is destroyed. Therefore, having the opportunity to retain all memories and personality from a previous life can be said to be the greatest privilege for humans. It's like playing an RPG and knowing all of its hidden quests. Luger is dead by now. But it's a bit of a pity that I've only just regained my emotions now. He also swore to himself that in the next life he would live according to his own will and not as someone else's tool. After hearing the reincarnated assassin's consent, the goddess quickly placed a finger on her forehead. Then transfer all the memories of the new world into the head. Although civilization lies between the middle and modern eras, in return there is the existence of magic, and a segment of humans possessing physical abilities that surpass the rest. But according to the knowledge I just acquired, the knight is the hero of mankind. Then there is no reason to assassinate him. The goddess also admitted that the character would destroy the Demon King and protect the world for about 16 years after the server was logged, but would then use his power to bring chaos to everything and end up being completely destroyed. The purpose and reason are quite clear, but the logic is a bit illusory, because the knight holds in his hands the potential and power far surpassing all of humanity. That means Luga has to kill a monster with limited power. But this is also the reason why the goddess chose men, because types like warriors, knights, or magicians all fight in a direct way. So how can you get a chance to eat a warrior? Only those with top-notch assassination skills are capable of completing this impossible task. After listening, I immediately agreed. Too convincing, but whatever you do, you must have a basis, so you will be given the strongest physical condition. For humans specifically, there are 5 skill levels, and this is also the limited number that an extremely lucky person can grasp. For Luga, it is different from the 3 goddesses, so you are free to take any 5, and the attribute that suits you. While I'm wondering if there is any violation when reincarnating someone from another world, my sister said that because the amount of soul is lacking, it was added. Unfortunately, she forgot to erase the memories and personality. Even more coincidentally, the confusion also carries within it the ultimate power of humanity, so any responsibility will not be prosecuted. Regarding the plan's execution process, we must absolutely wait for the hero to destroy the Demon King before taking action. If it is possible to maintain peace without assassination, it is of course better than the old way, so it is definitely a priority. Looking at the 124, 831 cards flying in front of him, the uncle still did not panic at all, but calmly analysed the ratio and made the appropriate choice. Despite being free to choose skills for each rank, knights have up to 30, and at least 5 of them are known as S rank. With a 1 in a million chance of achieving this level, Luga decided to bring the super healer to the team. A 1% million list of magicians. It will serve the purpose of creating new formulas. While in the world, there are only about 110,000 types for the B rank level. The uncle decided to choose to break his own limit. That was enough, combined with super recovery training, a state of physical strength that never runs out. Choose taijutsu for C rank, providing unarmed combat ability, which is extremely important for any assassin. As for rank, D. Luga was quite surprised because something in it made Min doubt whether the gods were summoned or not, so he put it here. Taking advantage of the super recovery he had chosen, from the beginning, Min decided to completely transfer the 4 basic attributes to his hands, just need to practice 4 times, then recover and continue practicing. The 3 goddesses were also quite surprised at the mundane powers, chosen but still found the uncle very interesting. That's right, there's no way anything normal can defeat an exceptionally strong individual. The place where he was reincarnated was known as a noble family of assassins, so before he could do anything, he was chosen to become the successor. Mainly eliminate pathogens that only assassins are capable of. Because they had also lost a child before, the couple were extremely determined to raise the child with great strength. In addition, the Min family is also the Baron of the On Kingdom. Time flies like a dog running in the field. In no time, Luga has grown into a handsome boy. Today is also one of my brother's hunting days. Found a baby rabbit dropping, so decided to chase it to catch it. Since magic is difficult to learn without a master, he could only focus all his energy on practicing magic power for the time being. As he spoke, he flipped his body around like an owl, then Duongtung aimed and shot. Specifically, if the prey is allowed to increase the temperature, it will reduce the natural sweetness of the meat or damage the internal organs, creating a foul smell, so it is best to pin the head of the trap straight down. Said and practiced right away while it was hot, the result was a great success, and it became a pile of protein waiting to be processed. Even though I could hunt for meat and cook it, my mother kept objecting. Because he keeps creating new and delicious dishes, he feels a bit embarrassed. Basic knowledge that everyone knows is to prepare a good nutritional regimen for yourself. That's why he sometimes chooses to cook for himself, with the aim of supplementing the missing nutrients for his body. While talking, he divided the meat into pieces, then used the guillotine skill to cut the carrots into pieces, and finally put them in the pot to simmer with some herbs. As an aside, this pot was also handcrafted by Luger. It works based on pressure, as the name suggests, and has nothing to do with magic or anything. As for his master-level cooking skills, he learned them through performing missions. When the work environment involves parties, dressing up as a chef is always a top priority. As soon as he finished speaking, he added to the pot a special sauce made by his brother to enhance the flavour. The perfect meal for complete nutrient absorption. Of course, where can you find such food these days? If brought to town and sold, it would be enough to open a restaurant. What's more, Luger's parents decided to cook it for the people to enjoy, specifically during the year's harvest festival. Now, Men admits that, although the food quality is not as good as in his previous life, every time he has a meal, he feels strangely delicious. After that, the father took his son down to the basement, then let him take off all his clothes and do all sorts of strange things. Then, he touched everywhere to check the quality of the muscles, how the bones developed, and many other things. According to the information provided, the family where Luger was born was extremely famous for its top medical skills in the country. They also rely on it to eliminate bad people who harm the country life and death, are all in their hands with orders from the royal family. When he was a little boy, Mien was taught medical and assassination techniques by his own father. For him, this is also a good thing. It is perfect for you to develop the necessary things and then face the task that almost no human can do. Realizing his son's extremely fast development, although a bit early compared to the general level, his father still decided to perform surgery to transfer the magic eye to him. This is the power that is maintained through the generations of the family. Thanks to magical surgery, vision will be increased to the point where one can see a person's magical power. But after only a short time of being blindfolded, the mother asked to breastfeed her like when she was a baby. Luckily, he knew the terrain and could hear footsteps, so he successfully ran to his father's place to hide. Wait until enough time has passed. Remove the blindfold and you will be able to see clearly every fish in the river. What are you waiting for? Go straight to the next step. Specifically, hire a tutor to teach him magic. Although forced to wear a slightly shabby outfit, the teacher who just arrived is super high quality. Shooting a giant pillar of fire like this makes 100 submachine guns, or an army gun look like a mosquito. One of the top 5 magicians in the country. The first lesson was the next morning when Mr. Q solemnly introduced his name and age. Only then did he know that they were just normal friends of the same age, because the little one was only 3 years older than the big one. According to information, the two people's course will last for 2 weeks. As soon as she finished speaking, she asked him to spread his hands, count his fingers, and then put a stone named Fow in them. It has the ability to accumulate and absorb magical power, often used in measuring a person's inner level. Dyer quickly asked Luger to pour everything he had into it. Listening to the teacher, the boy immediately closed his eyes to begin the process. The energy source quickly appeared and embraced his body. Whitehair thought it was over and even bowed down to praise Luger, which was quite impressive. But with 2 cards, Super Recovery and Limit Break, our house has long developed its internal strength 1,000 times. While he was concentrating on his work in the real world, the power gradually went out of control, creating probing energy rays. Dear, Nana panicked and asked the question. But this is nothing. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding space shook violently. Seeing the stone starting to crack, the white-haired man immediately suggested that he throw it straight up into the sky. Fortunately, Luger's quick reaction prevented an explosion, with the destructive power of a bomb. It almost destroyed all the windows in the house and blew away trees and rocks in Lum La. The homeowner also quickly arrived after realizing the danger. Hearing the beautiful woman reveal the reason that all the energy just now came from men. Mr. Bow and his mother could not hide their happiness and continuously laughed loudly and praised their precious son. After thanking the teacher profusely, the two commented that magic was a bit too war-oriented. So focus on things that can be used for assassination in the future. Waiting for the old couple to leave, Q immediately turned to ask the instructor for more ice, but she absolutely did not agree. Since this is a secret product of the homeland, there is no way to give it up to someone from another territory. That night, after returning to his room, he kept thinking about the need for stone, especially in the mission of assassinating knights. Before I could finish his train of thought, the female master entered carrying a pillow. She also spoke in the tone of an older sister, so the new side seemed quite surprised. It seems there is something that the family has not revealed to him. That's why Dia decided to use his master's power to set the rules. So the two of them slept soundly until the next morning. As soon as they arrived at the beach, the beautiful woman placed a test stone in Men's hand, then asked him to transfer a little magic power into it. Next, she brought her hand closer and checked the fire element in turn, then changed to water. And the result is surprisingly compatible with both. After Luga suggested doing the rest, it was unbearable. The young man, compatible with all four elements at the same time, reminded her that from the first day until now, the beautiful woman had only witnessed unbelievable things. Coming to the next step, both of them sat on a log together. Dia also said that the first time Land transformed his magic power, it would bring about an extremely powerful feeling. As a true teacher, she must try to provide a good experience. As soon as she finished speaking, the boy's soul fell straight into a colourful world thanks to Dia. His colourless, transparent power became meaningful. Next, Luga tried the transformation himself, and unexpectedly, as soon as he finished, countless special characters appeared. Dia also revealed that after obtaining one's own attribute magic power, the gods will guide magic by making lines appear in one's mind from which it can be affirmed that the more magic skills one uses, the more mastery one will have in the array of magic that can be used. Seeing that the young man was having difficulty reading the words in his head, Dia quickly gave it a try. The results of the study were successful, but due to the lack of standards, the copper sample was of poor quality. At night, I sat down to write in my diary and think about today's wonderful experience. Luga understood the fact that this was just the beginning. He had to do his best to complete the mission from the goddess. A moment later, the master came with the pillow again. Dia also praised the food he cooked as really delicious. She didn't understand why his knowledge was so profound, knowing so much while he was younger. He used the excuse of good family education, then changed the subject to go to sleep, and the next morning he boasted about his successful shaping of the magic medium. But he wondered if the power didn't appear in his head but was taught by someone else, would it be possible to successfully use it, say it, and do it while it's hot? After letting Dia write the iron crafting magic, he was able to cast it on his first try. According to White Hair, no one has ever done something like this before. With a burning fire and determination to create new power, Dia decided to spend the entire afternoon writing down all of his magic. From this, it can be seen clearly that the difference between metals lies in the numbers. Realizing that they were all chemical parameters, the young man quickly sat down and wrote a few more, then read the White Hair, the data. Related to gold. The little boy who had just chanted the spell fell down and rolled on the spot, while Luga could easily perform without any damage. He realized it was related to the skill of the spellcaster, so those without it would be hurt. He quickly made appropriate modifications, and so the little girl successfully had her first extremely enjoyable experience. The two also bumped hands and promised to cooperate in creating many new things. What was meant to be finally happened. One clear morning, the boy and his instructor met by the lake. He proceeded to chant the spell and then made the shotgun. Next, he used magic to push the metal bullet. Von Farm fired easily, blowing away the mushroom hundreds of meters away, marking the appearance of the first gun. Even more surprising was that not only Anku but also Dia easily created guns and shot using tree branches. However, the power is still not felt. Look at the rock in front of you and decide to do something crazy. Luga used a spell to create a small firecracker, then stuck it into a rock in the middle of the lake, and suddenly created a column of fire several meters high. Water splashed all over the surrounding area. Even the earthquake was strong enough to create a strong wind that blew towards where the beautiful and gentle lady was standing. Seeing that the gun head was made thicker but still bloomed. Like this, he decided to change to stainless steel next time. He turned to ask if he wanted to try, but not everyone has as much magic as men, so she decided that playing with guns was enough. At night, while Men was lying down, his sister suddenly turned around and hugged him tightly. Since 2 weeks have passed. We will soon have to say goodbye to each other. After listening, Mr. Q thoughtfully walked towards the window, then spread his hands and started to recite the spell. Specifically, he created a dagger out of titanium, which is beautiful, light, and indestructible. It can be said to be an extremely dangerous weapon. After letting Dia take it, Luger used his hand to flip the blade up towards the sky and slowly let a piece of cloth fall down. The result just needs to be passed for a few seconds and then broken into 2 pieces. Receiving the results of both their efforts, Dia was very happy and promised to spend time writing more magic, then let his brother compile it and put it into operation. She even gave him a necklace with a diamond as proof of her deep affection after a period of time together. Saying goodbye to his instructor the next morning, he and his father entered a dark prison. While I'm at it, Min also asked why we teach in a way that easily causes hesitation. Because if you remove all emotions, it will be more effective in assassination. But they are not tools. They do not just follow orders, but must rely on emotions to judge right and wrong. Now let's meet the prisoner. A woman was tied to a chair. She kept begging him to spare her. The small reason for killing the homeowner and innocent children was because his family did not feed him. Look how pitiful. Luger slowly approached calmly, then gently summoned the titanium dragon and cut off the hand. She revealed her evil nature and cursed his father for deceiving her, that if she cried, the boy would forgive her. And thanks to his decisive actions, Q certainly left a plus point in his father's eyes, starting his journey to become a professional assassin of his family. The next morning, in a dark corner deep inside the forest, there was a girl whose limbs were like bones. She couldn't take another step and collapsed on the spot. The small reason that food is thrown away is because the family is poor and there is not enough food for everyone. That's why the biological father decided to cut down on the mouths to feed. But before he could get up and continue moving, a sudden snowstorm appeared in the forest. Following behind was a pack of very hungry wolves. They kept growling and pointing their attacks at her. That same morning, Men's family went shopping together, and their town had a bountiful harvest this year because everyone from nobles to commoners worked hard. But before it could be more than 5 minutes, Luger's mother was drawn in by an invitation to buy cookies. She kept saying that her son really wanted to try it, but he doesn't care. He even kept complaining about being treated like a child. How can it be helped? The big lady was still lying on the ground and throwing a tantrum, making Luger unable to understand who was the kid. Luckily, there's something else to make up for because your stew is very popular right now. People even open restaurants for business. It helped him feel quite happy after the psychological shock caused by his own mother. After receiving the cake from his grandmother, he went to a very high place in town and continuously used his magic eyes to search for the owner of magic power. That's right. Within the next 8 years, he must complete the mission from the goddess, so he should search now to avoid any uncertain problems later. At the same time, he really needed an assistant who also possessed abundant magical power. But most people who possessed magical power were of noble origin or related, but there was no other way. In addition to being patient and waiting a while longer to avoid the snow-covered roads that lead to catching nothing and having little nutrition in the meal, the men quickly got dressed and went hunting after returning. He accidentally discovered the sound of wolves. That is how life goes. The young man witnessed the blonde's entire misery. The moment the animal rushed forward to take the first bite, the boy shot the arrow straight through the brain. He also flew down to the ground with great force, making her surprised at what happened. After throwing all the bows and arrows to the blonde, they created a complete combat gear consisting of 2 gloves and a dagger made of titanium. The first one rushed over Luger, quickly jumped back to reduce the impact, then stabbed it hard in the neck, directly cutting the marrow, causing it to die instantly. I thought focusing on one target would slow down my reaction, but he still turned to the second target, as fast as lightning, and slashed its brain. As for the blonde, she was suddenly ambushed by another guy, so Luger was forced to use his legs, which could only shock the brain but not kill him. The remaining 2 quickly attacked from both sides. Seeing that, he immediately let it bite the armoured hand, and then turned it 360 degrees and smashed its head on the ground, then punched the last individual in the pit and broke its skull. After learning about the girl he had just saved, Luga realized that she had come to his house after being abandoned with the intention of being able to stay there temporarily. After preparing a pot of soup and ladling it, to the blonde, Luga asked her to eat as slowly as possible. Next comes the cutting of meat harvested from wild animals. The reason for eating slowly comes from being hungry for a long time, so if you eat quickly, your stomach will react very strongly, even vomiting everything out. Now we can confirm the accuracy of the rumour about the lord of the neighbouring region, who is both incompetent and greedy in exploiting the people. After learning that he was the son of the noble family she was looking for, she boldly revealed that she had been told by a god in a dream about the fateful encounter. So he directly proposed to recruit him under his command. He said he really needed her, and even deliberately revealed confidential information about the path he had chosen, because at this point, she had nothing left to lose. So decided to agree to do the whole request. According to the introduction, the girl named Teicho also possesses magical powers, just like the person our family is looking for. Everything up to now has been according to plan, from killing the wolves to show off their strength and then feeding them to make them think they can protect each other, then saying they need each other and successfully building trust. Get someone who is willing to agree to any request you make. Previously, the goddess also summoned a soul who was known as the best member of the special agent team on Earth, and then revived him with all the favourable things. Of course, the assigned mission is no different from Luga. The only difference is that, in the path he took later, it didn't take him long to directly evolve into a useless fat guy who slept all day and was careless about everything. Back to men's lifetime flies, and 2 more years have passed. Now, our Luga is 12 years old. He even raised the little Westerner to become a fertile fruit orchard. For a long time, the little girl had the duty to wake her up every morning. There was probably no one as happy as her. After eating, the girl brought tea to her mouth to drink. The blonde also received love from both her father and mother because of her eagerness to learn, as well as the extraordinary ability she showed after the meal. Teicho and Q moved down to the dark dungeon, then stripped naked to do what needed to be done. I mean, the stuff needed to test muscle growth. As planned from the beginning, the guy brought the Westerner back and turned her into his assassination assistant. Of course, his father agreed, with a few conditions. The most important thing is to train her yourself, or if she betrays the clan, you must personally capture and destroy her. As usual, after the test ended, the blonde took advantage of the moment when Min wasn't paying attention and attacked, but he still gently dodged and grabbed his arm, sending him sprawling on the floor. This is also what he is most concerned about, because his assistant is not good at playing with knives. If she had a spear in return, she would definitely do much better. Unfortunately, the 2 of them were working as assassins, and that kind of huge weapon was completely incapable of meeting their needs. Late at night the next day, as soon as he entered the bunker, he saw the beautiful woman continuously stabbing the knife into the target, but still quickly dropped it. The reason was because he didn't have a firm grip on his weapon, but his purpose in coming here wasn't to complain or anything. After stopping the master from picking up the knife, the little girl almost cried because she thought the master thought she was incompetent and didn't need it anymore. But Luga wasn't so rude, instead transforming into 3 pieces of titanium. Among these, there is one designed with an extremely sharp tip and blade, which can be combined to form a complete spear. After spinning a few times to get used to it, the beautiful lady slowly pulled back to gain momentum and quickly glided away, crashing into the log. Then fly up and slash the target in 2. Another one fell right on top of my head. She still easily dodged to the left, then turned 360 degrees and slashed extremely smoothly. Reaching the final target, Teicho jumped a whole round of extremely flexible, then stabbed it and broke it into small pieces. The guy standing behind couldn't help but clap his hands in praise, making the blonde extremely happy. I even went to the bedroom to sleep with him without him knowing. Luga also recognized his own achievements, because everything went according to plan. But it seems that the 2 slightly large fruits were unexpected. Well, I have to accept it. Going back 35 years, the story begins when the goddess seeks out a great Sami, who is known as the strongest in the industry, with the sacred mission she desires, specifically reincarnation into another world with the goal of stopping the knight's progress. A special request from the gods was something Samurai could not refuse. That's right, people always carry martial spirit in them. But after reviewing her investment plan, she couldn't help but feel scared because the brave warrior didn't take any effort to destroy it. Now she could only wait for other candidates. The next morning, while Luga and Shicho were checking the business situation together, they discovered that despite the long summer, the people's agricultural products were still growing strongly. When he saw the fertilizer appear, a farmer immediately thanked him profusely because thanks to the miraculous fertilizer, he provided the crops were so lush. To show his gratitude, he gave me a giant pot of onions. Next to them, another resident named Emma Holtai ran over holding a basket of fresh green vegetables in her hand and giving it to men to thank Luga for using magic to restore the water source to the dry lake. Before he could rest, another person rushed over announcing that his cow was injured. After helping his uncle on the way back to Teicho, he couldn't help but admire how much Luga was loved. However, the pile of vegetables made him feel overwhelmed because he didn't know when he would have to eat all of them. However, Luga's attempt to win the hearts of the people had a deeper purpose to create a solid foundation for easy governance of the territory. He suddenly asked Teicho if she wanted to be born in this place, but she shook her head and refused, because if she did, she would miss the opportunity to become his loyal maid. Hearing that, Luga smiled and gave Teicho an affectionate look, then promised that no matter where she was, he would find her. At this moment, Luga was engrossed in contemplating the stone that Dia gave him. Besides, Mr. Q not only successfully produced them, but also secretly infused magic into them to create his own secret weapons. At this moment, Teicho suddenly opened the door and came in with urgent news that Luga's father was waiting for him in the training ground. As soon as Mr. Q started asking about Teicho's situation, hearing that Mr. Q frankly commented that after only 2 years of hard training, her level was on par with a professional killer. However, he remained skeptical and believed that Teicho could be a spy infiltrating to learn techniques from the family. Seeing this, Luga quickly reassured his father because he had also been secretly observing her carefully. Every gesture, every drop of sweat, but still no sign of her confusion. Hearing that his father was somewhat reassured, but in fact he had long been suspicious, because Teicho's appearance was too coincidental, plus the fruit possessed the magic power that Luga was looking for. At this point, his father began to announce that he had prepared a special test for his son. If Luga surpasses him, he will be officially recognized as a professional and will be handed over all the family's power, including the main profession of assassinating nobles. He immediately agreed. The two quickly had a survival battle in the forest. He asked him to use all his strength. In the dense, dark forest, a father and son hid like ghosts. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of his father shooting an arrow, so he secretly determined the position and then decided to immediately counterattack. But the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Father Luga quickly rushed forward to return the blow, injuring him and breaking his leg, so had to retreat and use super recovery skill to heal. Then, the father and son continued their game of cat and mouse. But Luga is extremely confident in his strength and speed. Plus, some skills brought over from previous life. He was sure he had the strength to defeat his father. But life is not like a dream. He had already set the trap. Only then did men realize that his father had the ability to read every movement. Luga also has that ability, but has not reached the same level as his father. Just as he was about to feign an attack and try to focus all his attention on him, Luga's father suddenly counterattacked. Luckily, he dodged 2 feints and then quickly turned the situation around and pressed the knife against the old man's neck. Even though he had to take a stab, he still won. After the battle ended, his father was surprised that the strongest person in the family himself was defeated by a 12-year-old child. Luga is not even beautiful without magic. Now he explained that if he used that to win overwhelmingly, then this wouldn't be training, seeing that he was very satisfied with his son's answer. Now, Luga's father also said that he has nothing more to teach because he wants his son to strive to become stronger. also reveals the final test Luger is about to undergo on his journey to adulthood. After that, the two of them together carried out assassination missions against nobles using all kinds of tricks, from poison injection fire to archery to assassinate. During a mission deep in the forest, his father told him to collect valuables to disguise it as a robbery, but on another occasion, Luger followed his father to treat a nobleman and received a handsome reward. On the way back, noticed that the noble's residence had been reinforced with soldiers and protective barriers. This makes the assassination problem difficult. Realizing that the situation was not good, he immediately came up with a plan which was to change roles to be able to approach the target, of course using a different identity. Not only that, but he also wanted Luger to play the merchant card under the name of Van Lowe's son. And if your identity is exposed, it's no big deal. Upon his return, Father Luger held a grand feast to celebrate his son's successful completion of the test, even promising to bring prosperity to the kingdom. As everyone praised Luger, his father's eyes filled with pride that made him happy. Seeing that Doan was extremely angry and threw the glass of wine at Min and declared that he did not accept him as his successor, because normally, when he retires, that position should belong to him. Seeing the situation getting tense, Min's old man decided to let the two compete to see who was stronger. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly put the dagger to Dohan's neck. This action clearly proves that Min has a level of ability that surpasses that young man. However, this guy still did not accept it and suddenly attacked Luger, but was still suppressed and deliberately twisted his arm slightly, causing it to be tight. With his advanced medical knowledge, he knew he would recover in just about a week. When the party ended, Luger unexpectedly approached Johanna to start a conversation, but the young man was still upset about losing to a boy 4 years younger than him. Seeing that, he immediately raised his voice and said that even the strongest person in the family was beaten by a kid more than 10 years younger than him. Then, he promised to recruit Johanna as his subordinate, of course, with a great deal of treatment that he couldn't refuse. By the way, the young man gave him a sword as a gift, motivating him to transform into a stronger knight than anyone else. The next morning, Luger's parents were there to see him off. Besides, Teicho is also excited to be with his boss. However, to make the journey go smoothly, Luger requested to be called by a new nickname. Specifically, he helped the group to avoid revealing their identity. After a long journey, Luger and Teicho stopped at a small hotel. Here they had time to rest and put on new clothes. Meanwhile, Luger uses magic to change his hair colour from platinum to black, giving his new identity a new look. One fine morning, Mahar saw a man who seemed to be lost. Immediately, she expressed her desire to be his tour guide for a very reasonable price. However, the man politely refused her and prepared to leave, but Mahar still followed closely. Behind, then quickly suggested a famous tavern in the area. Seeing the customer agreed, she immediately called Kelly to take the uncle to the other bar. Not long after, she happily returned home to show off to her friends the money she had just earned. At the same time, Mahar quickly called Y to come along because there was a group of tourists who wanted to explore the city. Seeing that everyone in the group couldn't stop thanking her because, thanks to her, everyone in the group had a job to earn extra income. Suddenly, at this moment, it suddenly started to rain heavily, so the two of them quickly ran to find a rain shelter, then sat down together to count the money they had earned that day with the intention of buying some new clothes. Because Mahar clearly understands one thing, that tourists usually only want to travel with children who are neatly dressed instead of those who are sloppy late. In the heart of the green hair at present, all he wishes is for everyone to work together to earn enough money to be able to rent a new house that is more spacious and comfortable than now. But life is often cruel. Suddenly, a group of strangers appeared looking aggressive and rushed to arrest everyone. Realizing the tense situation, the little girl did not hesitate and immediately rushed to attack the crowd to create an opportunity for her friends to escape. But unfortunately, after all the efforts, no one succeeded in escaping. Then, all were quickly escorted to a shabby orphanage. There was a brave man named Chan waiting here since afternoon. He immediately threatened and forced absolute obedience to his orders. Hearing that Noi Dung stood up bravely to protest that she did not want to stay in her current place, but as soon as she finished speaking, she was punched with great force. But they did not stop there. They also loudly warned the children that any of them who intended to escape would suffer terrible consequences. As soon as they were brought into the room, the three of them were heartbroken to realize that all their other friends had also been brought here before. Using his observation skills, Y whispered that the kidnappers were targeting the Institute's subsidy money. Because the Lord's wife was famous for her kindness and often helped homeless children, she even spent a huge sum of money to redeem them. Then, the guy from earlier threw everyone a bag of vegetables and loudly announced that it was food for the whole week. Although the food looked like garbage, people had to accept it for survival. In the following days, the children had to live in hell on earth as they were continuously exploited for labor, from sewing and embroidery to manual work. One moonless and starless afternoon, Miss Na was busy sewing, but unfortunately, a needle stabbed her hand, causing blood to flow out like a stream. Seeing that, another henchman immediately kicked the girl hard, causing Kona to fall to the floor in pain. Seeing his friend being treated brutally, the green-haired man rushed to beg. But this guy didn't show any mercy to her. He punched her and locked her in a dark room. At this moment, the boss appeared and told his underlings to restrain themselves, because these children were still a lucrative commodity, bringing countless opportunities to make money. Then, the third elder invited Tutuk Hamel inside to observe the children. Then he nodded in agreement to pay and promised to come and pick them up that night. That's why before the sky had time to turn black, he called Yaif Maha to follow him to the lake and ordered the long-haired girl to take off all her clothes, splashed cold water on her and forced Maha to bathe and put on makeup, then quickly forced Yaif Maha to wear revealing clothes. The final step was to throw it on the carriage and leave with me. At midnight, when he saw we return, Maha immediately ran out. But now she was in physical and mental pain, and even worse, she didn't want anyone to come near her. In the following days, she looked like a lifeless body, but still had to continuously go from one customer to another. Then, the unthinkable happened. The owner suddenly told Maha not to wear too much makeup because he would be the guest tonight. The next day, while everyone was busy arranging flowers, that guy appeared again and called Y and Maha's names as usual. Seeing that the whole group immediately questioned why they always called only the two of them and begged them not to do bad things to their friends anymore. Instead of responding to their pleas, the owner laughed and dragged all three of them to take a bath. Then each girl was forced to serve guests, until one rainy day, Noi sat huddled in the corner of the room and burst into tears. In desperation, the girl suddenly had a crazy idea, then proceeded to slash her own face. Immediately, Maha rushed over like lightning to stop his friend from entering a path of despair. As usual, every evening, Maha brought rice to the two men. Suddenly, she accidentally heard them discussing about taking her to entertain guests, because her green hair was still virgin, so she could sell it for a high price. After that, they also intended to tarnish the goods, making her want to ruin her beauty, so that no one would come to her again. At that critical moment, Luga suddenly appeared. The purpose is to need a right-hand man. When he saw Mahaha and the energy surrounding him, he immediately asked for his name and agreed to buy it for double the price. After that, Teicho immediately brought out a box full of money and gave it to the owner. But the old man still refused to hand over the person immediately and promised to finalize the deal for Luga in 3 days. Hearing that the little girl was extremely scared. At this moment, she just wanted Luga to take her away immediately, but their vicious eyes made Maha keep silent. Sure enough, that night she was taken by them to entertain guests. Specifically, there was no one else but Tran. He quickly began his beastly antics. Maha finally could not bear it anymore, so he decided to risk his life and jump out of the car to escape. However, the other two fathers also had magic, and because they had practiced a little, catching up with Maha was no longer too difficult. Without any pity for women, he acted recklessly and demanded to taste her flesh. At the critical moment, Luga appeared in time. He immediately threw the beast aside and hurriedly took Maha away from this place. Just then, the owner suddenly appeared to stop him, but at this point he didn't want to hear anything more. Seeing this, the old man overestimated his own strength and ordered his subordinates to attack. But before he could do anything, Luga sent him to hell. Soon after, Teicho also successfully found the mansion of Viscount Hilo. While he was immersed in Preparing for pleasure, he was suddenly surrounded by soldiers and arrested for illegal human trafficking. Returning to the orphanage a few days later, Mel gently pulled Noi to the mirror to show her that the white scars on her face had miraculously disappeared. At this moment, Luga tightly held Mahar's little hands and led her away from this hell on earth. At the same time, he also promised to bring a better life to make up for the pain she had suffered during the past time. After many days of devoted care, Luga finally cured Benny, the beloved son of the owner of the Van Loo Chamber of Commerce. In order to keep this matter a secret, he also told his father and son to keep it a secret, even with the lady, to the gratitude of the guildmaster. Luga only asked for permission to visit the mansion whenever he wanted. To express his deep gratitude, he also gave her a certificate of adoption as his sister. So, from now on, Maha will officially become Luga's little sister. The next day, Mr. Bay showed him the blueprints of a store. He then said that this place used to be a restaurant that sold alcohol, but because of business losses, it was temporarily closed. With Luga's talent and quick mind, he was sure that he would succeed in that field, so he decided to hand over the business to his son to work. Hearing that, Min felt extremely excited and immediately agreed to the offer. As soon as he got home, Tae-cho and Maha were already standing at the door. Not only did they warmly welcome Men back, but after sitting down to eat, the girls took turns showing off the dishes they had made themselves. While having dinner, Luga excitedly told about the new job that Mr. Ba had assigned him, specifically running a store. So Anku decided to open a shop with the purpose of approaching nobles, to serve the purpose of being able to easily carry out assassination missions. At the same time, this shop will be a place to help him earn extra income. While carrying out that plan, Luga came up with the idea of selling makeup combined with cakes. Seeing this, Maha looked very worried. Because there are already many cosmetic stores around this area, I'm afraid they won't be able to compete. But the author's favourite child can do anything. Back in his room, he stood in front of the mirror looking at himself and thinking about life. Since there are only 5 years left until the night assassination mission ends, Luga needs to become even stronger. Immediately after that, Tae-cho and Maha suddenly knocked on his door and even whined to sleep with him. There is nothing better than being able to sleep in the arms of 2 beautiful minors. Seeing that the plan was going in the right direction, Luga was extremely excited because he had just acquired 2 capable assistants, both of whom were even willing to help wholeheartedly. Besides, Baofather and son also trust Men absolutely. When Bin Min just got up, it was also the time Luga went to see his adoptive parents. He wanted to present his makeup business project. Only then did he explain that although the current cosmetics market has many beauty products, most of them ignore an important issue after removing makeup. The natural oil layer on the skin can be completely removed, leading to dry skin and premature aging. That's why Luga invented a lotion that provides moisture. It helps to make the skin smoother. After hearing that, the lady immediately tried to apply some heat to it, but it didn't help. Not only is the skin more radiant, but the makeup also adheres perfectly. Although Mila has a grudge against Luga, she is fascinated by the miracle cream he makes. Seeing that, the lady not only closed the deal, but also declared that she would consider him as her own son. After seeing the product's benefits with his own eyes, Mr. Barlow decided to invest in the project. Hearing this, Luga confidently asserted that he would be able to produce 200 jars of ice cream each week. Because he wanted to create more products, Mr. Bay proposed hiring more people, but was immediately rejected by Luga. Because he knew that once the cream became popular, the formula would likely be sold to other merchants. Not stopping there, Luga realized that to keep the product manufactured in the most perfect way, he needed to have an additional secret elixir from the AHD factory. At the same time, he also promised not to let anyone know about this exclusive formula. Seeing his seriousness and determination, Sabar immediately nodded in agreement and gave Luga full authority to take charge. On the way back, he revealed to Tae-cho that the miracle drug, mixed with oil and water, was lysine extracted from soybeans at Tua Ahad's house. But the reason Luga chose to produce in its home country was because it was the territory of the assassin nobility, so no one would dare say anything. In the blink of an eye, the Ozuna store's opening day has arrived. At this time, Consumers are constantly flocking to the store, causing it to be sold out. Seeing this, Noi hurriedly ran to inform Maha that there would be more lotion in the afternoon. Realizing that her friend looked a bit pale, she took the opportunity to reapply lipstick to make her look more beautiful. Meanwhile, Luga was leisurely sitting in a corner watching the rapid development of the store. Seeing that Teicho kept praising his kindness for creating jobs for Maha's friends. By the way, Luga also said that thanks to their close friendship since childhood, they worked together very well. Furthermore, with his intelligence and agility, he judged that the Maha group was perfectly suited for the job. Then, Teicho immediately informed Luga about the recent situation of the factory. There are always strange figures lurking, but they have not been able to break into the factory, so the elixir is still safe. In the blink of an eye, the sky gradually turned dark. While Luga was drunk, a robber suddenly appeared on the roof. Before he could attack, Teicho immediately slashed his dagger and sent the robber to his grave. Besides, Maha was not inferior to her quickly controlling the remaining assassin. After finishing his work, Min personally brought tea and cakes to nourish the two miners, so they would have the strength to interrogate the unlucky guy. Both of them did not compromise and quickly stripped the robber of all his clothes, humiliating him to the utmost. Not stopping there, Teicho gently used needles to prick his fingers, then continuously increased the number of tortures until he was in the afterlife. Returning years ago to the Holy Land, the goddess suddenly opened the second door to welcome a black-haired guy who used his top-notch armor talent to defeat the knight. Then, out of curiosity, he wanted to see what the young man had prepared for the mission, but was surprised to see him being controlled by two men, even standing there stunned enduring the attack. One fine morning, Luga felt like going to Dia's place, hearing that Teicho prepared a box of cakes for him to take away. When Luga arrived at the house, Dia happily invited him inside and showed off a bunch of new magic, seeing that Mr. Q was impressed because she improved so quickly. Then he gave her a box of sweet chocolates, making her enjoy it happily. Seeing how much she loved them, he promised to bring her another cake to try next month, while he and Dia practiced magic together or immersed themselves in books. Teicho and Maha were not far behind. At this time, the two girls were busy cooking and enjoying a hearty lunch together at home. The day passed, and it was time for Luga to say goodbye and return home. As soon as they said goodbye, her eyes kept looking towards him, hoping that one day they would meet again. Luga then flew straight home. He took a bath and quickly went to bed with Teicho and Maha. Just as the three woke up, the two girls suddenly smelled a strange smell coming from under the blanket. Both of them were curious and were about to turn it over to see what was there when Luga suddenly jumped up and refused to let them. He blushed and quickly explained that this was just a normal physiological phenomenon of a teenager going through puberty. Hearing that, Teicho and Maha immediately volunteered to help Luga relieve his worries. Faced with the two girls' enthusiasm, he just smiled awkwardly, not knowing how to respond, and fooled himself that everything was still according to plan. With life back on track, Kelly and Ia were on their way home. They were carrying all kinds of clothes for Luga, but were suddenly robbed by two men. At the critical moment, Maha appeared and asked them to stop, but the other two just laughed loudly and continued their hooliganism. Seeing that the green-haired man used his move to defeat all the men with horse-faced faces and then warned that if anyone touched her, they would only have to go down to reunite with the King of Hell. While Luga was sipping his afternoon tea suddenly returned happily with a collection of buttons. It comes from the unfortunate people she has dealt with. Besides, Tat was also nicknamed Lightning Speed Warrior Woman by the people, making her so embarrassed that her face turned red, and she absolutely refused to let him call her by that name anymore. Luga originally sent Tate Te to the battlefield to gain more experience and give Maha the opportunity to practice more in the business field. Thanks to his increasingly successful business, Luga had many opportunities to attend luxurious parties attended by elite businessmen. That's why Mr. Q took advantage of it to help the Ozuna brand name become more and more famous. As soon as he got home, he immediately handed the store over to Maha to manage, because I will be absent for a while soon. Seeing that she was very happy and affirmed that she would take Ozuna to new heights. Not only that, Maha also found a very high-quality location, because this place used to be an extremely popular business location. Hearing that Luga also understood, due to a secret investigation into her past history, he learned that Mahaha was once the precious jewel of a prestigious trading company. Unfortunately, when his parents were murdered by his own relatives, the sole purpose was to seize all the property, causing Maha to wander everywhere since he was young. And the place she just introduced was the shop her father left behind. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Luga agreed to let Maha do what she wanted. Even more surprising when Noi pushed the door open to announce everyone had already arrived, hearing that the blue-haired man called everyone in intending to give Luga a farewell gift. Because of you, we all have a prosperous life like today. Seeing that he humbly said that he could not help it, was all just fate. But the truth is, Luga saved everyone from their previous misery. Not only that, they also hope that no matter where they go, they will always remember them. Early the next morning, while Maha was helping Luga change his hair colour back to normal, Tate T was also dressed in his familiar maid outfit again. At this time, he also declared that from now on, he will return to the identity of silver-haired Luga. Before leaving, he did not forget to tell Maha to protect the shop carefully. Only then did Ter apologise, because only she could go with Luga. But Mahaha did not blame, although he still felt a bit jealous in his heart. Then, she also gave him a doll as a souvenir so that Q would never forget it. Even so, Maha still really hopes that he will come back to visit her, often. If he comes to see Dia every month but doesn't visit her, it will definitely be sad. After the two of them left, Maha kept looking at him and told himself that he would do his best to repay Luga. On the way, he knew that Tatiti would miss Mahaha very much, so Hua would try to give her the task of transporting Lucian so that the two sisters would have more opportunities to see each other again. After hearing that Taita quickly refused because she knew very well that Maha's feelings for him were very special, so it would be more fun for Maha to let Luga do it. But to him, she is just a little sister, so he cannot let other feelings overwhelm the relationship. Suddenly, at this moment, he felt magic appearing around here, so he quickly got out of the car to check. Thanks to that, we discovered a group of werewolves and immediately rushed in to clean up the whole thing, sending the wolves to the altar to watch naked chickens. After completing the mission, she hurriedly ran over and excitedly showed off her victory to Luga. Through this incident, he suddenly realized that maybe the night would soon appear to protect the land. While walking through the soybean field, both of them were now wide-eyed at the rapid development. As soon as the people saw Luga return, everyone rushed out and warmly welcomed him. At the same time, they also thanked them for helping them sell soybeans at a high price. He was so grateful that he generously gave Luga a basket of vegetables that would last until next year's tangerine season. As soon as he got home, his mother rushed to hug her son Kung and began to smell his scent after so many days apart. Not only that, she also thanked T for taking care of her precious son. Then Ku went to the office to find his father. Realizing that Luga had returned, he was extremely proud that his son could build a resounding reputation in Motu. Hearing that Luga humbly said that even though he had created a high-class cosmetic brand, the remaining problems were all thanks to Mr. Bar's efforts at this time. Luga's father also wanted to send his son to Van Lo's house to learn, helping him find a better job, instead of continuing to become a bloody assassin. At the same time, he also said that Bao had come to find him before, and advised that letting Luga become a businessman would be good for his future. Hearing that, he frankly told his father that being a merchant was just a cover for the purpose of assassination. Because Luga knew his father wanted him to follow in his footsteps, realizing that his son has grown up a lot, the father wants him to make his own decisions, because he knew that assassination was actually a very complicated and dangerous task, because if everything is discovered, the whole family will surely suffer serious consequences. Therefore, he hopes that he can think carefully before making a choice about the future. Besides, Luga's father prepared a new identity for him named Yuk Van Lo, so that he could survive and start another life, in case this country gives up. So he asked his son one last time if he wanted to continue living as an AHD member, but the young man still answered yes. Seeing this, he immediately understood it as him sacrificing himself for the kingdom, but for Luga it was not that noble. He just wants to see everyone here and the people he has the chance to meet in the rain to live happily, even if he himself is abandoned. Not only that, he became an assassin, not because of anyone's orders, but because of his own will and happiness. So Luga will not let his life pass by as badly as his previous life. At this time, Ming also confessed to his father that he had fallen in love with Dia, but to be able to marry her, he must have the noble status of the AHD family. If you are a businessman, someone else will definitely come and take you away first. Hearing this, Father Luga laughed and respected his son's decision to continue to maintain his noble status. He then gave him the mission to assassinate a noble. The reason is because he sold military secrets to a neighbouring country in exchange for white goods. This affects people's lives, even causing them to suffer misery and illness. At the same time, his father also wanted Luga to carry out the assassination his own way. Seeing that he was extremely confident about this mission and promised to complete the job perfectly according to his father's wishes, back to the moment men were given the task for a bit. This time, the target is a corrupt noble willing to sell military secrets to a neighbouring country in exchange for drugs and spreading misery. As an aside, the people of this world call that thing Ven. Because he was allowed to act the way he wanted, Luga was extremely confident about his success rate. Having finished speaking, he sat down and wrote the password, something that can help Menthankong infiltrate the mansion of the noble count. The moment I finish speaking is also the moment I finish writing. He immediately delivered the letter to Maha. The next morning, the noble lady sneaked into her son's room, but unfortunately, the boy was a professional assassin, so she discovered him in less than half a beat. She also said it was a pity and stared down at her lower body that was enough for the boy to understand. The story of the smell that day was completely revealed. The murderer is bragging, no need to ask who else, but Teicho of our house. Men had no choice but to continue sleeping because no normal person would want to see their son in such a situation. The next second, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Specifically, the blonde hair brought all the clothes for the young man to change. Everything was fine, except for this super nosy mother who waited until she was fired before leaving. Right in the next conversation between mother and son, the boy was forced to decide on a blind date. Most of the girls on the list are beautiful and come from famous families in the country. Seeing the blonde trembling with repression, the young man let her speak up and present her point of view. Specifically, this is still too early for a kid like Luga, regarding the reason for fear of not being able to wait until he gets old. Teicho always makes up the story that his wife is always fresh and young, so that definitely won't happen. But Men's mother was not the type to just mention the blonde giving birth to the boy's child, so the face is red like a chili. And Kwai Hoi said if so, then it can be temporarily accepted. As soon as the night crept into every corner of the house, the men and their subordinates quickly got dressed and dyed their hair. Then they moved out of the gate and started running at breakneck speed. All because of the mission that Q just received from his father. Back to the goddess's work, she remembered that about 25 years ago she had summoned the world's top paparazzi at that time, but was sent away by the demon of love in the most ridiculous way. Next, the goddess suggested using her ability to write tons of scandins and then bring them to cause others to suffer, applying them to the war with the hero. It sounds a bit wrong, and it is wrong. The old man was about to jump in front of Dungsi's carriage to capture the moment of 102, but was kicked straight into the sky. In general, there are no words to describe it. The next morning, both men and Teicho successfully reached Piso, a large city just a few miles away. As soon as we set foot in the town, we saw a gloomy scene, the main reason being that military secrets were leaked, forcing us to fight in a disadvantageous situation. Walk a little further, and you will see a girl selling grapes in the alley. After being given the trial bottle, Teicho immediately rolled his eyes and said it was for his brother. The reason comes from the fact that both are playing the role of a happy couple. Just as he put a piece in his mouth to taste it, Luga completely changed his attitude, asking the girl in front of him if she was going to give up or not, and even knocked the basket of jam away. Needless to say, my ex was all my Tui in disguise. The guards also quickly appeared. So the young man rushed up and punched the garlic to death, then Tae-cho kicked one of the guys. Finally, both of them struck and sent the remaining guys to their deaths. The reason the blue-haired girl did that was because of her mother at home. Just arrived at the place of delivery and saw a bad body. She also shouted loudly and pushed her daughter to the floor intending to attack, but was immediately controlled by Luger. He then used magic to make the victim faint, and at the same time made the body no longer addicted. But the neurological effects are not completely gone. As soon as they got home, a lot of cosmetics were delivered, which was also a disguise for a secret letter from Maha. The content is explained in a concise and easy-to-understand manner. Specifically, the Count was beyond help and had to be executed. The next morning, the boy and his adopted sister had a ride together. The little girl still kept on rubbing her lips, even though it had been less than a month since they had been gone. Then, Toksan asked about the progress of the relationship between Anku and Tae-cho. The answer is probably obvious to everyone. Young people also often go to illegal places to relieve themselves, and every time Tae-cho does so, he wants to go crazy. So Maha took the opportunity to urge his brother to do it with her. What's wrong? For blue hair, the problem is not much different. When I was little, I never got a response from my brother's tickling, but instead was constantly ignored. Know the cause comes from Dia. But it's okay for nobles to have many wives. After saying that, she slowly moved to sit across from Luger. She promised to make Oa stronger and stronger, making Min unable to abandon her, and then use her as a weapon to gain her adoptive brother's love. Basic knowledge uses value to exchange value. Both successfully reached the Count's territory. This place is largely developed based on agricultural production. But to reach the threshold of wealth will be very difficult to reach. The carriage had just stopped under the mansion when the blue-haired lady quickly appeared, saying she was eager to see the finished product. During the trial of the new product, she asked why she chose me. The answer is always that family has a very outstanding influence. As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. Bartuok appeared, asking about his feelings about the new product, constantly expressing admiration for the talent of the businessman, even joking that because he didn't know anything about makeup, he was sometimes really jealous of Luger. After giving instructions about the party that was being held tonight, the two exchanged a passionate kiss. Of course, all in the presence of Min's group. Most of the women present approached and talked to the guy. They were so eager to try the new product that the Countess kindly offered to show them a little to those present. Ben Cow approached and brought Luger a glass of wine. He kept joking and thanking the boy for making his wife so happy. Me took the opportunity to ask about the favourable business, but he just said it was nothing worth mentioning. It's not something special enough for your guild to notice. Time flies like a dog running in the field. The next night, Men and the blonde were at the perfect location. Since the Count was also a magical person, it was quite difficult to make him suck the canarium in the usual way. As soon as he finished speaking, he used magic to create a weapon, specially preparing a warhead that could launch a single projectile, causing the fatality rate to reach 99.9%. This time, Min also considered the problem carefully, because he did not want to repeat the mistakes of his previous life, and the Count really could not be kept anymore. After reading the slogan based on the name of the royal family and the trust of the noble's assassin to Aha de Men will immediately execute him. Having finished speaking, he pulled the trigger and put a bullet right in the Count's head. His wife also quickly appeared especially pitiful and crying heartbrokenly. This is what made the curtain pause for a moment. Unlike before, the man had no remaining emotions after the deed. Seeing this, the blonde quickly ran over to comfort him, making his mood also healed. Although he had no reason to regret this mission, he absolutely remembered it. Just finished work the day before, the two of them took each other to the sea to race boats the next day. Now they just need to go straight home, and they will be able to return to their normal lives. As for survival on a deserted island, it's not so bad, except for having to eat fish continuously for a long period of time. Before he could finish his sentence, Men felt a very special source of energy. Using his one eye to observe, the boy could recognize Maha in the distance, so he quickly moved deeper into the shore. As for the success of finding this island, it was all thanks to Maha hearing rumors about someone in distress. Then, based on the mining information, she calculated the wind direction and so on, and then determined the location. And that was it. On the way back by carriage, Maha revealed that he had just successfully found the divine weapon he had rolled. It is known as a tool with extraordinary capabilities, something that humans would not be able to create. It is known that this time the dish they have information is called Ma Thuong Ger. Maha is in the process of trading. Only the holder is Citate Magnet, a candidate with a high chance of becoming a knight. But this is not the bad news that Blue Hair wants to bring. Specifically, it concerns the civil war that occurred in the Kingdom of Chukwag. Dia's own family also participated in the battle as regular soldiers. Even more coincidentally, on the rebel side, there was also a very tough guy, none other than Mu. After listening the next morning, he was at Dia's house and was teased because he missed her so much that he showed up. After saying that, the two quickly went inside to make some tea to warm up. Luga's attitude turned extremely serious. He asked about the current tense war situation, but she just smiled and mentioned some small fights in the capital, far away from where the two were currently drinking tea. Besides, she is still very confident about the family she was born into. With a long history of superior magical abilities, there's no need to worry about her own safety. But if the short hero hypothesis against MNT is true, then there will be no human capable of defeating him. Luga finished his sentence and proposed to take Korus and his family to live in another country. But no matter what, even though he is a count of the kingdom, the family was born with the mission of taking care of the country, the territory as well as the people. So how could he bear to abandon it and run away? But before she could calm down, she turned to ask about hair dyeing. The reason is because I plan to go out with Q and ask Luga to help me choose a super luxurious and smooth outfit. Who would have thought that Mrs. Mam would not have chosen those two dresses and added a chestnut brown hairdo? I don't know what to say, but just go to botta.com and follow it. Check out our list of lunch options from Pata at Amanda's to Arnsini at Delson. As for the reason he knows so clearly, he must have investigated everything to take the girl out. He slowly carried the jar and ran. Regarding the feeling that there were many talented warriors appearing around here, Dia explained that it was because all the people had military experience at a young age, with the aim of preventing war from happening and also saving some. Time to prepare for lodging. The two then quickly moved to the archery game. The boy opened his eyes and was about to eat the whole teddy bear. Who is afraid of being severely blamed? Because if so, it would be a lie, so I could only hold the beautiful lady's hand and instruct her. Although the wind was a bit strong, I still got a bear. In the end, the store is still losing money, no different from the beginning. Back to the goddess's difficult recruitment work. About 20 years ago, she summoned a teacher who was considered the best in the world to the server, but as soon as she did, her face changed colour. As of now, she has also completed reincarnation number 632, and once again started the algorithm to select candidates. All for the sake of saving the world, she watches over. About the other two's fun, finally found a restaurant to eat together. Even though the food cooked by men is better, I can only eat as much as I can at this point. Even he himself admitted that if he kept enjoying the food with his dear like this, there would probably be no bad dishes left. Then he promised to cook it himself next time. Her eyes sparkled, but also seemed a little sad. The two moved down the stairs and accidentally discovered the boy sitting in a dejected position. The cause comes from losing his mother. Seeing that the two were too shy to say anything, Men immediately disguised himself as a teddy bear and asked what happened. Thanks to that, both of them got a little more important information. After listening from beginning to end, the beautiful lady quickly placed her hand on the ground and started casting detection magic. Lightning fast, the patterns expanded out and transformed into giant shockwaves. It transmitted the mother's chaotic calling for her child. Thanks to that, they successfully brought the boy back to his mother. As soon as he finished, returned the teddy bear immediately. The reason he acted like that was because he cherished the beautiful time he had with his lover, and if he ignored the crying child, it would definitely turn into an unwanted stain. Then the beautiful lady led the young man straight to the extremely famous hot spring. I've even been looking forward to coming here for a long time. Finished the sentence and took off the clothes on the body as fast as lightning. Ignore his surprised and disbelief attitude. Although at this age most people do not have any sexual desire for the naked body of the opposite sex, but unfortunately young people are reincarnated and not born normally. The two of them were calmly soaking in the hot spring 1 second, and then the next they started splashing water to play around, causing Dia to almost fall headfirst into the tiger's nest. Luckily, Men appeared in time. He then instructed the beauty to take a deep breath to make her lungs expand so she could float on the water. Of course, from beginning to end, in a state of nakedness. Both of them were still floating, holding hands. They all seemed to cherish this moment. Dia began to ask about Brother Koi's feelings towards the clan. He also admitted that he of course loved Ahad-Di very much. If so, then Dia is no different. Not only did she love the town and its people dearly, she also wanted to do many useful things for the land. In addition, her father is also working hard on the battlefield. He was also a strong man and especially talented in the art of losing. It's simple, even if he loses Dia's father, must return by all means, then clean up the consequences left by the war. Just thinking about it makes our beauty no longer want to escape to another country. After saying that, the two of them dived deep into the bottom of the tiger's nest, together, changed their hair colour back to its original colour, and gave each other a passionate kiss. When it was time to say goodbye, hearing the guy suggest coming back next month, Dia quickly denied and said she was very busy in the coming time. If there was anything, she would contact him later. After hearing that, the young man didn't think too much and immediately turned back and returned to the family territory. She also quickly ordered the surrounding army to disguise themselves, revealing that they were all armoured and fully armed soldiers. But the most special thing at the moment is our beautiful sister's emotional expression. After entering the middle and turning white hair, she walked with tears in her eyes, finally leaving this emotional area with a farewell for the blanket. As for him, the boy was lying in the middle of the grass, when Teicho suddenly ran over, intending to report urgent news. Just got home to see a soldier lying wounded in the middle of the mansion. After finishing first aid, the head of the AHD family stood up and said that he had just received a request from the soldier in front of him, and he currently wanted to hand it over to his son. Things are not as simple as they should be, as his father reveals the main content now. Specifically, the assassination target is Dia, daughter of the Vic Honor family, who is participating in the war. Before considering the cause, I have a question, related to country and territory first. Specifically, that family is just a neighbour of the country. So, why did AHD intervene? While M's father was at it, he explained that the assassination was directly related to his personal views, and the fact that the Dia family participated in the war as part of the Royal Army was in extreme conflict with what M knew. Didn't Vic Connor already take care of the aftermath? Father Luger immediately confirmed that the Count had indeed given up half of his territory to settle the matter. However, the problem is that the person being targeted is the goer. Of course, the servants absolutely did not allow the young lady to go to the noble old men and even killed the messenger who came to pick her up. To the point that volunteer troops in the territory also determined to gather and build into a force. They chose to stay put and lock the beautiful woman and her father inside the castle. However, the assassination commission from Chaya himself was just a disguise. At this point, even if he gathered more forces to confront them, he wouldn't survive, so he chose to kill them to escape. More specifically, they will create a fake scene, then let AHD take the girl away, safely. If Luger really refuses to carry out the mission, then the father will personally go into battle. But the failure rate is almost 99.9%. Since V's territory is very far from here, it definitely won't make it in time. Even if there is time, there is not enough magic power for a clan escape. In fact, this Tartoy soldier had left the territory 3 days ago, and the battle had already been going on for some time. It can be said that the situation is like 1,000 pounds hanging on a thread of chicken noodles. After a long while standing there in deep thought in this life he was no longer living as a tool, he was also grateful for Dia's teachings in magic, and had even had a special fondness for her for a long time. As for my father, in his entire life, he only once went against what he believed in. Specifically, Luga's mother is also of the Viki tribe. So these two, father and son, are just alike. Min is even more intense than his old man. But if the son is better than his father, the family will be blessed. Having said that, he immediately prepared his things and left. Because this trip is 300 kilometers long and quite urgent, he will use all his speed to get to the destination. That's why Teicho was completely unable to catch up with him. So Luga chose to act alone. What men did not expect was what his subordinates would do next. She understood clearly that even if he had super recovery, as long as he used all his strength to move and recover, he definitely wouldn't be able to keep up. And he had to conserve his physical and magical strength for the next journey. I understand that the servant is planning to carry me. A bit. The moment she finished speaking, she summoned a windshield shaped like a train. Then, the two started moving at high speed, no different from a real train. According to basic physics knowledge at this time, the resistance created by the air is really huge. Once the two of them exceeded 40 kilometers per hour, more than half of the blonde's energy would definitely be used up in air resistance. Furthermore, the more it accelerates, the more difficult the burden problem becomes. More precisely, the knowledge applied from the sleep stream law. It looked like the two were separate, but in reality, it was like the blonde was carrying her master on her back. Despite the mental and physical drain, Teicho was still determined to do his best for his master. Besides, she also understood that he saved her to take advantage of her. But that's enough for her. Since, from ancient times until now, not only did no one need her, but even her parents wanted to abandon her. It is enough to understand the pain that this beautiful woman had to bear. After a long while, it started to rain. She worriedly told her subordinates to stop, but she could still do more, so she refused. She understood well that her master always hated being turned into a tool, so he chose to think carefully before acting. If that's true, the blonde willingly became a tool to serve Luga for life, even sacrificing her body strength or life. But at some point, the shield finally reached its limit, so it shattered, and the blonde was directly pushed back. Luckily, an owl came to help her ferry. After being placed down, she kept panting from exhaustion, then asked him if he loved her very much. Of course, the answer received was nothing short of cruel. Luga frankly admitted that what the blonde said was true. He only waited for her to finish telling him that they had to return together, so he immediately continued on his way, leaving the poor girl alone in the middle of the indefinite silence, sitting there sobbing like a child. At the same time, the two old people at home were constantly reminiscing about the past, no different from them when they were young, except that Luga was very strong, even abnormal. Back 14 years ago, the goddess was reporting to her superiors about her decades-long journey of cultivating talents, finally receiving sweet fruit and bringing a suitable soul. The one who can stop the corruption of the night. Back to reality at night, the young man successfully approached the castle, and a quick observation was enough to see that it was completely beyond expectations. The enemy also had many people possessing magical power, so the difference between the two sides was truly immeasurable. Even so, they kept acting as if they were defending against something being launched, but that was okay. This time, Min decided to choose judge and act based on his own will. After saying that he moved to a hidden corner above and magically conjured a sniper rifle, finally ended up putting a bullet in the head of the first magical guy, then immediately stand up and move to another location. Since the location was quickly exposed, it was safe to assume that all soldiers knew about the gun's existence. And guess, who else can do it besides you? Use wind magic to scan and judge the situation. The enemy is currently questioning what just happened and has unintentionally fallen into chaos. So, now is the right time to push everyone into a corner. after saying that he proceeded to create a gun into a stone, and then used the ratio of fire 7 wind 2 to push the stone to reach the largest explosion with the support of Earth 1 to spread the damaging effect. As a result, wherever he shot rocks and soldiers flew everywhere. Seeing the enemy formation fall apart, the army entrenched in the city immediately seized the opportunity, rushed out to attack. Min's part of the mission was considered complete. Now he began to sneak up and move closer to the castle while simultaneously activating a wide area search area to recapture the location where his lover was being held. While moving, Min also carried a corpse that looked quite similar to Dia with the purpose of disguising her departure. With that, he ran like crazy and successfully reached the locked room. After melting everything from the chain to the lock, the young man rushed straight and hugged the beautiful lady, making her extremely emotional, still with tears of joy. Of course, everything happened right in front of the head of the Vic Honor family. At the same time, Mahar suddenly received a small letter. After reading it, he almost lost his breath. He also told his subordinates to immediately prepare a carrier pigeon and send it to Ahad's house. The objective was to report an extremely urgent news certainly related to the battle where Luga was performing the rescue. Seeing Luke appear, Dia was so angry that she put everything aside and ran to hug him. Seeing this scene, the Count could only smile bitterly. At first, he thought his daughter didn't even like boys, but now she's fallen in love with this killer friend. Next in shook hands and introduced her, but he was so rude that he almost lost his daughter. Dia looked annoyed, but inside she was probably telling her dad to keep talking and not stop. Focusing on the main story, Dilim revealed his plan to cause trouble to fool the enemy and then hide once the soldiers had all escaped. He will then prepare for a counterattack to turn the tables. After hearing that Lack immediately came up with the idea of burning the room to create a cover that he was dead. He brought a fake corpse, then asked Dia to open the window, screaming loudly according to the scenario he had drawn. However, just as she was about to speak, Luke suddenly sensed danger approaching. Sure enough, below, a stranger rushed in and attacked them. Locke quickly threw his weapon to block, but failed. The entire building was punctured with a large hole. Fortunately, Dia's life was still preserved. Realizing that his opponent was too dangerous through magic power, he immediately created a cannon and fired straight at him. Knowing that his father-in-law would be curious about the gun, he explained that it was a weapon used to assassinate enemies from a distance. Killed, and then don't know what the exact definition of assassination is anymore. This is a fair and square, is attack. On the other hand, he thought that the other guy would definitely be killed after that direct shot, but unexpectedly he was still conscious, and even seemed surprised to feel the pain. The class realized that this red-headed guy possessed S-rank basic skills with the ability to utilize anger to increase his physical strength, magical power, and attack and defense power. So the French cannon just now was not enough to finish him off. Listen, Lim said, making him even more certain of his hypothesis. He is so strong that the royal family is forced to surrender and end the civil war, which is really not good. At this point, the redhead started giving LC an ultimatum. Either he will wipe them all out, or you will have to go down and duel him, like two real knights. If he wins, he pledges never to set foot on Vicon territory again. The class once thought that the butter skill would make people lose their minds in exchange for ultimate power. But strangely enough, this guy was still completely sober. At this moment, he introduced himself as Satanta, a name that just hearing it made Lack remember that this was the person Mahar had mentioned. He was accompanied by a famous magic spear that was comparable to a divine weapon. At the same time, Luxie's mother hurriedly brought a letter to her husband, surprising him when he saw the title Hero placed right in front. On the other side, the Tanta warned Luke Duonghong to run away because he was eager to compete with a worthy opponent. Hearing that Luke reluctantly accepted to fight Setant, even though he knew that if he fought one-on-one, he would most likely lose. Dia is extremely worried about LC and wants to fight with him, but LC reassures him that he only lost in a public duel, but if he assassinates him, things will be different. Then LC builds a ST launcher and fires the bullet. Next, he asked Lim to go down with him to confront the monster. Lim initially wanted to mobilize all the soldiers to hold back the Tanta, giving Elsie and Dia a chance to escape. But Elsie knew clearly that no one was strong enough to stop the Tanta car, so he would handle him himself. He thought that if Setant were a hero, this plan would be very difficult. However, if we don't take down the red-haired guy now, the consequences will be dire. Very quickly after that, both appeared to meet the Tanta car. When he saw Luke agree to fight, he was happier than if he had won the lottery. Locke pretended to be FY and was surprised to see that his wound had healed without any after effects. What a monster. There are about 200 seconds left, so he will stall for time by asking questions non-stop. First, if the Tanta car is defeated, who will keep the promise? He immediately replied that his subordinates would do it on his behalf if he died. Luke continued to drag out the time, asking what if he lost. Seton declared that he would capture Dia and destroy all his soldiers. Before the battle began, Laxolgat asked Seton to withdraw his troops from this place, because he didn't want to implicate innocent people. Seton saw that Lack was kind and immediately complied and told everyone to quickly retreat. Locke also told his side to leave so he could handle everything himself. At this moment, the goddess silently observed Elsie's every move and smiled mysteriously. Elsie then created a dagger which made Sean look at him with disdain. Regardless, he just knew he needed 44 more seconds, so he tried to crow for a while. He claimed he could take down the Tanta without taking a single hit from him. Hearing this, Seton was extremely excited, wanting to experience the ultimate time-wasting game right away. Lack took out a coin setting the rule that when it touched the ground, the two would start fighting. But when the coin dropped, it was all over. Why did the bullets that were fired earlier turn around and attack the tank? To explain a bit, this assassination magic was created from a previous life called the Staff of the Gods. It is a weapon of destructive power on par with a nuclear bomb. However, in the past life, putting large objects into satellite orbit and controlling heat from aerodynamics was a difficult problem. But now, thanks to Earth magic and gravity magic, did it easily. Before that, he also asked Dia to find the formula to turn the coefficient into negative, then used the ability to create formulas to complete the counterforce magic. He also enchanted the tungsten warhead with wind magic to counteract aerodynamic heat, helping it fall from satellite orbit and hit its target. To master this technique, he practiced a lot on a deserted island. Its destructive power was equivalent to the firepower of 111 tanks, firing at the same time, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Even LC was severely injured and fainted shortly after just from the aftershocks from it. A moment later, Dia came crying to wake him up, glad to see that he was okay. On the contrary, he was quite sad because that attack had completely destroyed Dia's castle. But she didn't care about those things and just wondered why he risked saving her when it didn't benefit the Tua family. Lack immediately took out the token, symbolizing the promise that, if he just called, he would come immediately. Dia was touched and promised to repay, but why promise? He said less and did more, decisively stealing her first kiss, marking this relationship once and for all. Although this was his first failed assassination attempt, he got Dia in return, so it wasn't a loss after all. Then, when Dia was brought home to meet his family, the war ended, and everyone welcomed peaceful and happy days again. The next day, the biological father thanked his son for helping him fulfill his friend's wish. The class said that even though he failed to assassinate her, it was the luckiest thing that happened to her. But to hide Dia's identity, her father-in-law will adopt her as his biological daughter, Lack's younger sister. He then revealed that a hero had appeared in this kingdom, which startled Lek. Realizing the red-haired guy is not the hero he thought, Sian warned that the devil would be here soon and advised